Hey everybody, I have done some sanding and everything and filling on the seam lines of the Saturn V, and I got Rust-Oleum semi-gloss protective enamel for the base and Rust-Oleum semi-gloss protective enamel black for the highlights, and Rust-Oleum high luster clear lacquer for the finish. And once I get it painted and lacquered, then I'll put the, or covered, then I'll put the decals on, the clear coat, and then clear coat it again. And then when that's done, as needed, I'll see about a semi-gloss finish. One thing is that I'm probably going to take some heavy globby silver paint and put it around the nozzles, because my research has shown that the nozzles with all this detail, that's not how it sat on the pad. It actually had these like diapers, sort of a coating that was put over them that actually obliterated a little bit of the detail. And once the thing heated up and started launching, a lot of that stuff cooked off. But they actually make resin nacelles that have less detail, sort of a chunky look to them to mimic that. So I want to make sure I get that one part right. And then when that's all done, I'll get to working on more on the launch umbilical tower. Good news, I was finally able to get the loot instructions downloaded on my phone, so I can do it here in the shed instead of having to do it at my desk where there's not much room to work. And of course, I'm putting up this area where the lunar module would be residing, because it does have some pretty noticeable seals, some gaps there. It's going to take a fair bit of grinding to get that smoothed out. I'll probably give it a quick test shot just to see how what I've got looks so far, but I can tell there's a lot more work to be done. These seams aren't that bad, but there are lips and things that have to be filed down, so I've done a little bit of work on it, as you can tell, but a long way to go. And these Rust-Oleum paints apparently are very popular with some of the car guys. They say they work really well on the cars, so when I get some more cars, I'll see how that works out. I'll still be using the regular stuff on the airplanes. And the, real quick, I'll just set these here. Advancing on some of the rigging with the swordfish. Not a perfect job by any means, first time using the easy line, and 172 is pretty small scale, but still having a good time, working well. And I got an email from Matt Irvin, who sent me the last I needed to finish up the Strombecker video. Maybe I can get that done tonight. And so that's pretty much where we are right now. I had a nice phone call with a buddy of mine, Ken, who's also been a long-time model builder, slot car guy. And I'll probably include some excerpts of that. We got real long-winded. I had a dead battery. I have no idea what's on the camera. Models. Life is good. By the way, I did hear a rumor that I thought I should bring up. I don't know if there's any truth in this, but supposedly some of the large defense contractors that license their vehicles, their aircraft and machines, they're not real keen on renewing the licenses on some of their properties. So it's possible that in the near future we may be seeing some rather interesting machinery removed from the shelves. I mean, not be allowed to be made anymore. Of course, plenty of current inventory that'll have to be sold off, but I don't feel at liberty to say anything because I don't know what I'm talking about, and I could be completely wrong, and I don't want to start a panic, and I'm not trying to get people to run around buying models. But if you've been putting off some purchases, especially maybe from some Cold War era stuff, you might want to revisit, go ahead and picking them up. I did just get a phone call from the hobby shop today. I have another P40. I have that P40. I want to get two of them to redo my Pearl Harbor P40 Boys video with all my own material without getting anything from the internet other than royalty-free archival photographs. So it's a little late today. I'm going to have to run and get that tomorrow. So it's going to be a while before I get to that. I've just got too many other irons in the fire, but at least I'll have my two P40s. And I probably already have enough aircraft because most of the Midway aircraft are the kind of planes that were used at Pearl. Heck, they're even the same squadrons. 4 of the 6 carriers that were at Pearl were the 4 at Midway, so pretty well covered on all that, I think. So anyway, guys, you have a good evening, and we will talk at you later. By the way, I hope the sound's coming through better. I'm getting a few complaints about the volume. I'm going to be ratcheting up the volume on these if I can, so see if maybe it's a little easier for you guys. It's easy to turn it down. It's only go up so far. So, all right, guys, have a pleasant evening. You take care.
Okay.
But I'm not letting that little tidbit out in the interweb because I don't want to get anybody in any trouble.
Right.
But just remember, the secret code is 717 and the password is failings.
Right.
And whatever you do, do not go to Max's Models YouTube channel and click on the video that says, oops, never mind. So I sent an email off to Real Space, which is a model company in Tallahassee, of all places, 20 miles from my house, where I'm from. He makes, he's a resin guy that does a lot of really nice Real Space rockets. I'd like to do an Agena. And anyway, I had contacted Fantastic Plastic and got up with Alan Urey, and oh man, we had a great phone call. He's a heck of a guy. One thing I like, most of these guys I've talked to, Andy, Alan, they're just fun people to talk to. They know a lot. They love what they're doing. When somebody enjoys it, it shows.
Right. Well, one thing I kind of considered doing.
Keep talking. I'm going to step over and get the Saturn V and take a look at the putty, see how the seams are looking.
Okay.
You keep talking.
One of the things I kind of thought about doing, along the same lines that you've been doing with plastic model kits, is I was thinking about doing the same thing with pinball machines.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
There's history out there. There's books out there saying, this was done. This came from here, and this was invented here, and stuff like that. But there's nothing about what went into creating individual pinball machines.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, and given as popular as pinball machines, I'm sure there would be an audience for that.
Yeah, because a lot of the people that made those things are still around. So getting first-person history from them.
And I'm sure they would love to talk about it too. That's one of the nice things about like the kit model game is that since people love what they do, they love to talk about it. And that makes my, what I'm doing that much easier to do because, I have yet to find somebody in this business that was like, I don't want to talk about it. And
because it seems to me that the amount of time, energy, and creative effort. I've heard that it costs $1 million to bring a table from design concept to actual selling the thing.
I have no doubt that there's truth in that.
And the designs are iterative. They design the board before they come up with any of the graphics or any of that. All the graphic stuff comes later.
Mm-hmm.
And they the popular machines, they say, have what's called good geometry that makes the game fun to play. That's kind of the secret sauce, I guess. And finding that good geometry is very hard.
I think my favorite was probably the Star Trek one.
Which one? There's been 3 or 4.
The Next Generation.
With
the Klingon ship on it and everything, and
and the tubes that the balls go through.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Plus, it has a couple cannons in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that you're gonna, if you go to a model kit show or an IPMS convention, I'm pretty sure that night if you go down to one of the pinball places, you're gonna find the same guys hanging out.
Pretty much.
That's cool though. I mean, no, it's okay. But it's also, Ken, I mean, we also hot rodded cars and stuff. I mean, it's all part of that creative, I'm glad I'm a guy kind of gene. And
yeah, driving doesn't seem to be that much of a thing with this particular generation. I had to tell my son to go get his driver's license.
I had the same problem. Of course, it kept my insurance down, so I didn't squawk. And he's a safe driver, so which is not without its own advantages. At least in this generation, they tend to drive more safe. At least in my family. But you and I, we were speaking. We want big, powerful cars to go fast.
Yeah. Well, also, the only way you could really communicate with your friends back then was over their phone, and the parent, you only had one phone line in the house, so the parents tend to,
wait your turn.
Yeah, wait your turn, or get off the phone. You've been on too long. Somebody tries to call or something like that. You had no idea if somebody tried to call because they just got a busy signal and you didn't hear anything.
Funny you should mention that. I was just thinking about earlier today while I had like 7 windows open trying to get about 3 things done at one time. I was like, boy, I remember when a computer could only do one thing at a time, and you had to C:\root directory, using DOS to get around. And if you wanted to do something else, you had to close the program, leave it, and then open a new program. I'm like, first time I saw a home PC multitask, I was like, ooh. I mean, this is up there with the Wright Flyer and the Apollo liftoff. I was like, men on the moon?
Anyway, so I have some theories about why kids of this generation aren't interested in getting a driver's license.
Social media, part of it.
That's part of it, but the other thing is they don't want the responsibility.
Oh, wow. I know this has been dragged out many times to the point it's almost a punchline. And this has nothing to do with military service.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize every generation's worried the next generation, what is their problem? Our parents thought us with our long hair and our hippie freak clothes. Well, I never had hippie clothes.
Bad music.
That bad music. My dad made me listen to Benny Goodman and stuff, and which I actually kind of like. So but anyway, but you see a picture that says, like 2014, and it shows some kid 23 years old, doesn't know how to change tire on his car, can't get a cell phone signal, so he's on the roadside. Doesn't even know how to change his own freaking tire. At least he knew how to drive. But doesn't know how to fix his own tire without a cell signal. He can't call for a tow truck. He's like, I'm abandoned. I'll die out here. And then it shows that, that's 2014. Then it shows 1944, and you see boatloads of 19-year-olds hitting the beach at Normandy. And you're kind of like, mm-hmm. Well, our parents wanted to give us a better life than they had, and probably unfortunately they succeeded. We say that, but don't forget, Ken, you and I aren't exactly experts on riding a horse. And I'm sure 100 years ago there were people going, kids don't even learn to ride a horse these days. They just want to ride around in them horseless carriages. But so it's
some generational stuff.
Well, we have much better medicine than we had before. We have much better communications. We have incredible communications to the point that's a double-edged sword. You can get the word out on anything quickly, but the downside of that is, of course, misinformation travels just as fast.
Actually, there's an old saying that a lie
can go around the world while the truth is still getting its shoes on.
Pants on.
Yeah, and I've heard that phrase dedicated to a great many people, Teddy Roosevelt and a bunch of others, but whoever said it probably goes back to Socrates, but whoever said it's right. But then on the other side, the flip side also, the technology is a double-edged sword. Yes, we have a ridiculously high standard of living. The quote-unquote poor in our country have a higher standard of living than the middle class in a lot of the world. Every generation's got its pros and cons. We're not as tough as our parents were. We didn't have to physically work as hard or as many hours. And the next generation will probably be the same way. But it's a learning process.
It'll become a lot more technical and a lot more complicated.
Yeah, it will. But they'll also live longer, and they'll be able to do things we hadn't even thought of yet. And I thought Skype was something. Now you got Zoom, and like I say, for example, there's freaking flip cameras, you know, flip phone, or I mean, there's cameras everywhere now between cell phones and everything else. And you want to terrify somebody, just pull your camera out, you know, and start videotaping what they're doing. Even if they're not doing anything technically wrong, it's unnerving. So we live in a virtually self-inflicted surveillance society. But on the upside, when things happen, there's usually someone there to take video, so you know the truth can be told. And that cuts both ways. I mean, a lot of the current messes are because of a clip of video, but then their video, it's not the video, it's the act getting videoed. The first time this really became a thing was Rodney King. You know, the videotape where the cops were with Rodney King, and that was a real harbinger of things to come. And I think the best thing that's happened to police work is these PRDs. You know, they carry the recording devices, because that works for everybody. It protects everybody. It protects the cop from false accusation, and it protects the citizen from police abuse. So in a situation like that, I think it's the greatest thing since pockets. But it's also getting harder and harder to maintain any element of, you know, the nebulous concept of privacy. So everything, it's like I tell people, it's the building a boat theory. For every good, there's it's Newtonian physics applied to life. You know, for every action equal opposite reaction. So for every good, there's a bad, and it's all about trying to live in the balance. And master's degree, I learned that when you have a highly observed society, there's an unexpected outcome or result of that. People talk about, well, if we put
unexpected consequences.
Well, that's true. And what happens is, this all came out of the drone research technology I was doing. And what happens is, people realize they're being watched. Okay.
Yeah.
And it results in what you might call false behavior modifications. They know when they go out the door that there's cameras on every street corner. So they modify their behavior to fall in line with what's expected by the observing party.
Right.
So the government expects me to do this, this, and this. And it has another flip side, is that, by the way, I can spoof the observer by deliberately acting in a way that will throw him off the scent of what I'm actually up to. For example, he thinks I'm going to go out, it's this time of day, I'm going to go out and go to the grocery store. So instead I'll walk around behind a corner where I know there's no cameras, and he'll be looking for me to come out down the block, but I don't. Okay? And he's like, wait a minute, they went in the alleyway, but they didn't come out. And then 10 minutes later, I'll come out and like, what did he do? What did he do? Okay, he was in that alley, he was doing something. Actually, no, I wasn't. I just did it to screw with you. Make you wonder what I was doing, okay? In other words, people not only learn to mimic a certain behavior to throw off whatever skullduggery they may be up to, but they also learn ways to screw with the observer. Now, to give you an example of this, it goes back, this could be an apocryphal story, but it still gets the point across. Supposedly, and I've heard this story told different ways by the Russians, by the Americans, but supposedly, we knew the satellite patterns of the Russian spy satellites. And we knew it would pass over, say, and I'm just making this up because I forget where it was really supposed to be, but let's say that we knew it would fly over Palmdale at 2 p.m., orbit the Earth, and 90 minutes later would fly over Andrews, right?
Yeah.
On the next orbit. So they got two identical test aircraft, parked one outside of Andrews, parked one outside of Palmdale, and painted the exact same ID number on the top of the wing of each one, getting identical markings. So the satellite photographs one on the runway at Palmdale, and when it goes, because you know where the satellite's going to be, and when it makes the next pass over Andrews, it shows it rolling down the runway at Andrews. Holy crap, they can get across the country in 90 minutes! They've got a new super fighter thing that got Mach 5! You know, and blah, 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 you know. And apparently some smart, Russian analyst just went, Nyetsky, nyet. Is gag, comrade, is gag. And
that's kind of sort of like the first jet they had in Britain. They made a fake wooden prop to stick on the front of it.
They did that to the XP-59 in America. You think that's weird? Ken, have you heard about the bowler hat, the monkey suit, and the cigar?
No.
All right. I'm getting this from Mike Machat, and man knows his business, but all right. The XP-59, the early twin-engine jet we had during the war that we were just experimenting with, we knew that pilots, you know, they were told to stay away from the area where it's being tested, but they knew that when pilots saw this thing flying along, chugging black smoke, they were going to go over and investigate, probably thinking it was someone in trouble. And of course, they would go over and see the propellerless airplane that they were not allowed to report. So the pilots apparently went up, and part of their equipment was a bowler hat, a gorilla mask, and a cigar. And if they saw and you remember that early jet wasn't any faster than a Mustang, you know, so they could, you know, so if some nosy local fighter jock came up, you were supposed to put on the gorilla mask, put on the bowler hat, and hold up the cigar like you're smoking it, and have him get close enough to see the cockpit. Now, who the hell in their right mind is going to go report that to their boss? I saw an airplane with no propeller being flown by a gorilla smoking a cigar wearing a bowler hat. That's okay, Leroy. Come, let's just go talk to the doctor. Yeah, you've been working hard. It's hot outside. You need a break. They're coming to take me away. Haha.
Well, that's kind of like, you know, reporting UFOs. You see something weird, you didn't report it if you were in the military.
I love it in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. The best part of that movie is the airline pilots. You want to report it? Yeah, you want to report an unidentified flight object, and that one pilot gets their dead air. No, I don't want to report one of them things. But what I love is the dead air. You know, in the cockpit, they're like, don't you say it.
Thinking about it now.
Don't you say it.
I don't want to lose my job.
One-way ticket to the funny farm. I've seen so much wild stuff flying that, you know, the eye's the easiest thing in the world to fool, which is, well, that's why prestidigitators, aka magicians, have a job. And
from what I've heard, planet Venus has been reported as unidentified aircraft more than any other thing.
I never reported it. I saw him. Is that guy gonna move? Or are we following? Like, oh hell, that's a planet. The one that took the cake, though, was the famous meteor incident, and I was there. There have been a handful of incidents in aviation that I've actually been part of. I was only a few miles away when JFK Jr. disappeared in the jump seat of a Delta MD-88 going into Providence, and I was up there flying as he disappeared. I mean, we never saw him, but I was less than 50 miles away, probably. Same time, almost same place. Then there's the.
Was it VFR?
Well, he was flying VFR, and it was marginal VFR. We had about 3 miles of visibility, but out over the water, since there was no horizon, you were effectively IMC for all practical purposes. There were no references out there, even though you had the required visibility. They need to change that rule. I was also, you may remember when the guy was mad at the IRS over in Little Rock and took his Cherokee and flew it into the IRS building.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was there.
You were there when that happened?
He took off right behind me. I remember them talking to him on the radio. He's like, Cherokee, yep, Cherokee. And they kept trying to raise him. They handed me off to center. And I was like, okay. And then when I landed, we heard about it. Holy shit, that's the guy that took off behind us. Then, of course, I was the first one to report the famous Boston meteorite incident. Well, it ain't famous. Nobody knows about it. But we saw this light come streaking out of the sky, followed by this enormous explosion. And if memory serves me right, it came down, it was green, but when it exploded, the explosion was red. And me and the FO were looking like, huh, what the hell? And I thought it was like, TWA Flight 800, or not, was it 800, the one that blew up off of Long Island when the center tank exploded?
Yeah, 800, yeah.
Well, the radio was kind of quiet, so Boston, this was Mesa, air shuttle, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, did you guys just lose an airplane on radar? And no line. I told him what I saw. And other airplane, after I reported, the other guys started chiming in. No one wanted to be the first one.
Yeah.
They got back to us about, 5-10 minutes later. Guys, we got the word from NASA. It was a meteor. It was 140 miles offshore. It looked like it was right above us. because there's no depth perception in the dark. Oh, it was, well, actually they said despite the big shed, it was probably about the size of a softball. But it came in, it might have been comatose material because it came in the atmosphere and superheated and just exploded.
Oh yeah, that happens all the time. The different colors tell you what it's made of.
Oh. Well, the outside was made of green kryptonite, and when it exploded, it turned into red rubies. Green moons, red clovers.
I'm thinking the green might have been copper, and the red might have been iron.
Green clovers. What does it say in Lucky Charms? Green moon or green clover, oh whatever.
Okay.
Well, I got to turn the AC back on, so I'm not going to be able to videotape that AC going. It's just an annoying ass sound. These seams are not super hard to fill in, but getting them to flush is going to be a little tricky because they're not, sides don't exactly line up right. But anyway, I'm going to let you go so I can get the AC going and keep working on this.
Okay, no problem. I got some things I got to do too.
I'll probably make this tonight's show, so I don't have to. Just got nothing else going on.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
By the way, my sister got a real kick out of that video that I was in with Dr.
Godzilla versus the Wehrmacht.
Yeah, they got a kick out of that.
My opus magnum.
One of your better ones.
That was a lot of fun. It took 8 months to make that thing, but I tell you what, that after I went to that armor show from the armor guys out at DeLand to have those 5 tanks, they've got a Stuart with a they've got a Sherman with a 105. They've got a Sherman with a was it high velocity 76. They've got a Hellcat. They've got a Jackson, which are both tank destroyers, and they've got a M7 Priest, which is a self-propelled gun. They've got a 155 Long Tom and a tractor, and to get some other stuff, a bunch of Jeeps and stuff. And I was just thinking, I actually came up with an idea for a screenplay semi-related to my little parody movie. That if somebody had a couple of $1 million, it wouldn't cost too much because we got the asset. We could hire them to provide the armor and everything. And I've already got, most of the bugs figured out on it, but it would basically be since I could never afford the rights to something, that's why I have this. In fact, let me go, as long as I'm in front of the camera, let me just go ahead and dang it in front of the camera real quick. It's right here. I've been working on this, I've done just a little bit of work done to this Kaiju that I came up with my own, which got the, which has a bunch of big tentacles coming off its back. But it'd be the same basic storyline, Animal experiment gone bad. Military forces unexpectedly caught trying to fight it with World War II weapons. I think that would be a lot of fun as a Kaiju film. And Avi came up because he's also got German uniforms and German motorcycles. I was like, yeah, they use the POWs as bait.
You do have an active imagination.
Well, being a failed screenwriter.
Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to fail at it. I could never work in Hollywood because, I have wrong think, But
oh yeah, wrong thing.
Yeah, but still, hey man, it's the beauty of independence. Somebody give me $10 million, I'll make you an independent film, and by God, we'll have some fun, and won't be preachy either. It's gonna be monsters and tanks shooting it up, guys running for their life, being eaten alive, all the fun stuff. Getting squashed down, and glory and battle and blood and courage and cowardice and but one thing about my Kaiju that's consistent with most of them, okay, not Ghidorah, but you stop and think about it, Ken. Any monster movie, for the most part, the monster is the real victim. And think about it. Godzilla was happy to stay at the bottom of the ocean and eat fish until we started dropping nukes on him. King Kong was literally kidnapped from his home. I'd be pissed off too, right? Dracula didn't ask to be bitten. Wolfman didn't ask to be bitten. Frankenstein didn't ask to be made. Neither did his wife. And she's got a good reason for freaking out. So, you know, when you get right down to it. Now, Jekyll and Hyde, he was his own worst enemy. There's just somebody who did it to himself, you know. But that's the thing about the new monsters like Michael Myers and them. They're just genuinely bad. They're just genuinely broken and evil. But
what about the Invisible Man?
Yeah, he did it to himself. You know, that's true. He drove him insane. Oh, the thing about the Black Lagoon, he's kind of like King Kong. He's out there living in a swamp, minding his own business, not bothering nobody, till Whitey shows up. I tell you what, I think about it now, I'm rooting for Kong. You go get him.
Well, Exxon's got a tiger in the tank.
Put a tiger in your tank. Man, we are getting old.
That was a line from the movie, don't you remember? One of the King Kong movies?
Oh, that was the one in the 70s that was done by Dilo De Laurentiis. Yeah, exciting. Keep that tiger in their tank or whatever it was. Keep the tiger in your tank. We got a Kong running down the street.
How they got it back was interesting, too.
Yeah, the old tanker.
Then he woke up. Stuck trying to punch his way out.
Yeah. Well, all right, man. I'll let you run.
All right, take care.
Take care. Bye.